And thanks for joining me, everyone. Welcome to Moscowitz live stream. I'm going to try to do this show every day around noontime. Today it's 1 o'clock because I'm working on a lot of the technical aspects of it. But the program will live stream on, of course, the flagship station, which is YouTube, but also Periscope, Twitch, Facebook, and many other stations. And what I am doing now, and what apparently I can do technically, which is very exciting to me, is I can take calls. If you want to call the program, your voice will go over the air. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about, the issues of the day, whatever. The number to call the show, 617-396-4830. That number again, 617-396-4830. I want to talk a little bit about what I see as an anti-Semitism problem on the Democratic side. You've got the two new Muslim representatives, both of whom have embraced a certain type of anti-Semitism that is not particularly Muslim in nature. It's actually very leftist in nature, where they view Jews as secret controllers of the world. Basically that we're oriented toward money and commercial benefit, and as such we're manipulating politics in a way that would favor our agenda. And what is our agenda? In their case, I suppose, support for the state of Israel. Now, there are plenty of interest groups that support a lot of things in this country, and I do think that Jews do support the state of Israel and the security of Israel, and they are willing to do so, oftentimes back that support up with money. That's a fact. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is this: first of all, the fact that the people that are saying this view that as a negative, which I don't. And secondly, that they put it in the context of some kind of a conspiratorial view of Judaism as secretly controlling the world. And there's all this stuff that comes my way that's it's not just anti-Semitic, it's just also anti-Jewish in the way, for example, E. Michael Jones, who I respect a great deal as an author, and who's written The Jewish Revolutionary Spirit, he refers to himself as anti-Jewish as opposed to anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitic is opposition to Judaism as a race or as a biological factor, whereas anti-Jewish is a traditional Christian view and a Catholic view, which is that they oppose Judaism as a culture. They think that, and wrongfully I may add, but I understand where they're coming from somewhat, because after all, if Jesus was Christ, then Judaism was replaced. I get that. I don't agree with it, but I get it. The fact of the matter, I would argue, is that Judaism doesn't exist as a reaction to anything. We don't exist as a reaction, as a rejection of Jesus or of Muhammad or anyone else. We exist as an organic, dynamic faith, a covenantal faith. We believe that we have a covenant, or were given a covenant by God at the time of Mount Sinai, but through Moses, and that part of that covenant was that we were to uphold very specific and also some more generalized moral and ethical precepts. And that in the process of doing that, we view ourselves as chosen to serve God with a special layer of observance and with a higher moral and ethical code. That's what the chosen idea is all about. It's not because we were chosen to conquer the world. We're not chosen to control anyone. We're chosen to try to live a more exemplary life based on the precepts of the Torah, and as such, to serve as an example to everyone else because of our service. Not to other people, but to God. We're not here to control anyone. We're here to worship God. That's the covenant at Sinai. That's the Mosaic covenant. And I may point out that Jesus himself in the book of Acts and in the book of Matthew is credited with having stated that this covenant is forever. So, and also while he was on the cross, not to get into an issue of Christology, he absolved Jews of their whatever sins they may have under the guise that they didn't know what they did. And so I take that as sort of an abrogation of this idea that we are guilty of killing Christ or killing Jesus or killing God or whomever, which, of course, we didn't recognize. The rabbis at the time, or the head of Judea, didn't really recognize or consider Jesus' claim to be valid. That didn't mean that they didn't like Jesus. In fact, I think they admired Jesus, and particularly Rabban Gamaliel, who apparently met with Jesus, with a delegation, and he was very impressed by Jesus. In fact, there were rumors at the time that he might have been a secret follower of Jesus. And he was a very significant Pharisee, a member of the Sanhedrin that would eventually codify the Talmud. So, he wasn't just some lightweight. He was a major leader. But, it's a fascinating subject. It's something I have talked about, will be talking about with E. Michael Jones, and I'm interested in the phenomena of anti-Judaism because it frightens me, frankly. And I feel, getting back to, the present day here, that members of Congress on the left and in the Democratic Party are becoming more openly anti-Jewish, or maybe even anti-Semitic. I prefer to say anti-Jewish. I don't think they dislike us as a race. They just dislike us because they think that we're wrong and we're bad people, I guess. I don't exactly know what they're up to, but they also, in a very knee-jerk way, oppose the right of the State of Israel to exist. I recently actually had an argument with a texter, and this was something that E. Michael Jones said in my interview with him, and it's the one thing he said that really got under my skin. It really bothered me, and it calls into question, I think, the legitimacy of all of his work, unfortunately, and that is this idea that that Israel is somehow engaging in atrocities and that they're cruel, and the specific charge that they're killing children. This is a blood libel. This is despicable, and this is wrong. They're not killing children. Now, in the course of a war, which Israel is dealing with because they have aggressors on their borders who are trying to kill them, they may strike back, and yes, there might be children, unfortunately, who are killed. But they're not going out to say, oh, let's find the children. Let's go kill them. Oh, look, there's a child over there. Let's kill him. This is just it's ridiculous. It is wrong. It's contemptible. That would be like saying that when General Eisenhower was planning the D-Day invasion of Europe in 1944, did he do this because he wanted to kill children? He wanted to kill German children? No. Now, that doesn't mean that there might not have been some German children who were killed in the course of that invasion and in the course of the move, toward defeating Nazi Germany. Unfortunately, there were children, no doubt, killed. But, to suggest that this was their agenda, the Israelis go out of their way to avoid innocent casualty. They don't want to kill any innocent person. They try to target only those who are attacking them, which are the rules of war that have been accepted since the beginning of time. It's according to international law and custom, that if Israel is dealing with an aggressor, someone who actually is trying to kill Israeli children, frankly, in many cases, they have a right to defend themselves, and they have a right to stop that person from doing it, and that means including killing that person. That's just self-defense. So when you had in 2015, the Hamas war coming out of Gaza, which, by the way, Israel handed over to the Palestinian Authority on a silver platter and stripped it of its Jewish population, Judenrein, ethnic cleansing, and gave them money and tried to help them develop what they actually hoped would have been a responsible Palestinian state that could have lived peaceably alongside Israel. And had that happened, Israel would have done more. In fact, they already did more at that time. They also turned over to the Palestinian Authority the area around Jericho and a couple of other areas as well. The Palestinians had an opportunity to create a free, independent, peaceful, dynamic state. They could have turned Gaza into Singapore, or Hong Kong. It would have been, this is beachfront property. It was a beautiful area. They could have turned that into a prosperous nation. The money was pouring in from all over the world, actually. They could have done that, but they chose instead to put in power Hamas, and Hamas then proceeded to start firing missiles into the state of Israel, and upwards of 6,000 missiles, and build tunnels under the border so they could get in and kill as many Jews as possible. So, unfortunately, Israel is defending itself. During that war, Israel could have ended the war very easily by simply bombing Gaza to smithereens, which is probably what it is what they did in Syria recently. Not Israel, but Bashar Assad to his own people. But instead, and frankly, in order to avoid the loss of innocent life, the Israeli army had to go in and take out these missile launchers and their missile sites so that they could stop the danger to Israeli civilians. And in the course of that successful operation, Israel lost 85 soldiers. Now, that is devastating to Israel. That is a loss of life that could have been avoided if Israel had taken easier and more drastic measures. So don't tell me the Israelis are trying to, be cruel and mean and whatnot. This is just propaganda. And the fact that E. Michael Jones, with due respect to him, and the person that's emailing me says, oh, they saw this on Iranian TV. Oh, wonderful. There's a great source. Maybe they should look at Nazi television too. I mean, this is just, it's Arab propaganda, and it feeds into the American left, and that's coming out in the form of Omar and Tlaib. I think also Ocasio-Cortez, who has backed away from some of that at least. But it's there. It's anti-Jewish because, well, look, I'm going to conclude the interview. I mean, by the way, if you want to call, you're welcome to 617-396-4830. 617-396-4830 as I launch my live stream. I'm going to try to do it every day around noon time. Of course, this being internet, I don't have to do it. I could maybe not do it on a given day. But I'd like to try to make it a habit. I'd like to invite callers. I'd like to develop an online community. And to me, this is a great opportunity for all of us to learn something and to really delve into issues in a very vigorous way. That's my goal. That's what I always have wanted to do and what I tried to do as a talk show host. But I'll conclude it by just pointing out that there are two things that the left hates the Jews for and hates Israel for. First of all, well, three things, but the two, let me start with the fact that the state of Israel is a sovereign national entity. There's a strong sense of nationhood there. There's a strong culture. And they don't like nationalism in the best sense. That's why they don't like Donald Trump. They don't like the idea of a sovereign state protecting its own interests, protecting its own people, putting their own people first, which is exactly what Israel does for the Israelis, and their supporters help them. And that's exactly what Donald Trump does for the United States. He's putting the interests of his own nation first by, for example, building a wall on the southern border to stop these very vicious drug gangs and other criminals from coming into the United States, which they've been doing for many, many years. He's working on economic trade policies that protect American industry and American labor by not allowing a country like China to dump free products on us and damage our ability to manufacture here. He's putting American culture first. In other words, it's the best expression of nationalism that Trump is engaged in. and Israel is engaged in for their own people as well. And I would contrast that positive form of nationalism with the very destructive left-wing nationalism, which was a hyper-nanny state that controls as many aspects of the citizen's life as possible, whether it be national health care, which kills people, whether it be national education, which hurts particularly minorities, whether it be national policing, whether it be national welfare, national this, national that. They want to nationalize everything. In fact, Elizabeth Warren has openly talked about nationalizing big business, right? As if you're going to have the government run it and they're going to do a better job. Tell that to the Soviet Union. The point is that they're hyper-nationalists as opposed to proper nationalists in the American context. And Israel is very much like America. It protects its citizens. It operates in its own best interests. And the left hates that because they believe that the hyper-nationalist state, with people worshiping the state, is a change agent in a move toward a world order, which conservatives and normal people reject. The second thing they hate about Israel, and they hate about Jews, is that we're religious. We believe in God. Believe me, that's a big no-no for them. We have traditional customs. We have vows that we take seriously, religious vows where we practice certain things. I'm talking here about traditional Jews, more religious Jews, not the left-wing Jews. That's a whole other story that I'll get into on another day. But Israel is a state, whether they're secular or religious, it is the Jewish state, the one and only Jewish state. And as such, it sets the stage spiritually for a heightened awareness of the existence of God. It sets the stage for a rising of moral and ethical standards all around the world, and it sets the stage for, God willing, the coming of the Moshiach, the Messiah. So on that note, I launch my live stream. I want to thank you for watching. Again, this is Charles Moscowitz live stream, and I'm going to try to do it every day. Thanks so much, everybody.